Thank you for tuning in. Town Hall is proud to be a community-focused organization and a place where we can share and sustain ideas and creativity, even if it means we can't gather in person. I'd like to thank Curt, Ana, and Dave for appearing tonight to help make that possible. Town Hall will be continuing to provide virtual content this fall, and many of our past talks are available in video or podcast form on our digital media library. Town Hall is adding new events and podcasts every day. Upcoming programs include a presentation by David Sheck with Jarvis J. Masters, the Buddhist on Death Row, Barney Scott Mann on his journey along the Pacific Crest Trail, and VJ Cummings with James Rasmussen and Paulina Lopez about the impact of the Duwamish River in our region. Town Hall and the nonprofit community at large have been put under significant strain due to the event cancellations and ever-changing landscape. We hope you will consider extending your generosity to help support us during this difficult time by making a donation by clicking on the donate button at the bottom of your screen or becoming a member. You can make a donation online or text Town Hall to 44321 to give. Our partner booksellers have been hit by the negative effects of the COVID outbreak and can use your support as well. If you're interested in supporting local independent bookstores by purchasing a copy of the book being presented tonight, please use the link on this live stream to purchase through Third Place Books. For viewers who want to watch this broadcast with closed captioning, we recommend viewing the stream via our YouTube page. To enable real-time closed captioning, click the CC button in the bottom right corner of the video player. The video will be available for rewatching immediately following tonight's broadcast. Tonight's presentation will be about 30 minutes followed by Q&A. Curt and Ana will select questions from those submitted in the Ask a Question field at the bottom center of your screen. You can also vote on which questions will be addressed by clicking the arrow next to the question to upvote it. We cannot guarantee that we will be able to address every question, but we will try to get to as many as possible. Please keep your questions concise and in the form of a question. Town Hall's work is made possible through your support and the support of our sponsors. Our Arts and Culture series is supported by Culture, Arts Fund, Seattle Office of Arts and Culture, and Wyncote Foundation Northwest. A special thanks to our co-presenters, the Seattle Public Library. SPL is on a road to reopening, and select locations are now offering limited curbside pickup service. Find out more at spl.org. Finally, Town Hall is a member-supported organization, so I'd like to thank all of our members watching tonight. Curt Warner is an honors graduate in communications, a two-time All-American at Penn State, a 2009 College Football Hall of Fame inductee, and a former All-Pro running back for the Seattle Seahawks and Los Angeles Rams. A three-time Pro Bowler, Warner was inducted into the Seattle Seahawks Ring of Honor in 1994. Ana Warner has dedicated her life to the care of her family and the study and treatment of autism spectrum disorder. Both she and her husband have served as keynote speakers at the National Autism Conference at Penn State and the Texas Autism Conference in San Antonio. Dave Boling is an award-winning sports columnist and former reporter for the Tacoma News Tribune. He is the author of two novels, Ganerica and The Lost History of Stardom. The Warner's book, The Warner Boys, Our Family Story of Autism and Hope, is the subject of tonight's talk. And before our guests start chatting with one another, we're going to watch a short video. So yeah, let's transition into that, and then we'll welcome on our presenters.
Curt Warner was raised by his grandparents to be hardworking, respectful, and humble as the youngest child in the only Black family living in the coal town of Wyoming, West Virginia. Curt was a standout high school athlete. He didn't seek out the spotlight and had no aspirations beyond high school sports. Colleges expressed interest in the smart athlete. The powerhouse Penn State program and coach Joe Paterno was who Curt ultimately selected, mainly because his family would be able to make the 4-hour road trip to see him play in Beaver Stadium. Freshmen usually ride the bench, yet Curt Warner was the exception. Working hard in training camp and practices, again, the work ethic that was ingrained in him from his youth. In his first game, receiving a kickoff off the return, ran the length of the field and almost scored a touchdown. That got the coach's attention, and Curt moved to first-string running back and finished the game with 3 touchdowns. The Seattle Seahawks grabbed Warner as the 3rd overall pick of the legendary 1983 NFL Draft. Warner led the AFC in rushing yards his rookie season, helping Seattle to its first conference championship. In the first game of the 1984 season, Warner was sidelined by an ACL injury, but not even that could stop him. He recovered and continued to work and propel the Seahawks from a regional expansion team to a championship contender. It seems the only thing that could stop him in his tracks was a perfume model with a lilting accent. Ana had moved from her home in Brazil to be self-sufficient and independent. She handled working a number of jobs in the U.S., first as a babysitter, then a house cleaner, and fortuitously, a friend of a friend recommended her to a person who placed fragrance models in department stores. In the mornings, she would clean houses, and in the afternoon, get dressed up in a designer suit and spritz perfume samples. Ana had no idea who Curt was, but recalls she felt weak in the knees when Curt first approached her at Seattle's Bon Marché. Within months, on Valentine's Day 1990, Curt proposed atop the Seattle Space Needle, dropping an engagement ring and a glass of champagne. In 1990, the Seahawks let Curt's contract go, and the Los Angeles Rams picked it up, but it wasn't to last, and Curt decided to retire. Curt redirected his career to a successful car dealership as they started their family. Their oldest child, Ryan, was stillborn. Ana and Curt's faith helped guide the pair through this devastating heartbreak, but it did not deter them from wanting children. Their son, Jonathan, was born, followed quickly by twins, Austin and Christian, and then later, a joyous adoption of a daughter, Isabella. And the memoir they wrote with Dave Boling is about the Warner boys, specifically how their family has adjusted their plan as their twin sons were diagnosed with one of the world's most elusive neurological disorders, autism. Theirs is a story of struggle, faith, and grace as they navigate their path through autism and planning for the future for their beloved boys who are now adults.
Okay.
Loved watching that.
Curt, do you remember some of those runs, and do you remember some of those hits, and are you still sore?
I'm still feeling the effects of it, Dave. You are correct.
I think we should first thank Town Hall,
Yes.
Seattle
Thank
Public
you.
Library,
Yes.
Third Place Books, who's going to help us sell some of these books, which we would really appreciate.
Yeah.
And also Northwest Passages Book Club, who put together that highlight
Yes,
reel that I
yes.
think is really instructive, because it gives our viewers here a chance to see the boys and
Yeah.
to see the looks on their faces and what fun kids they are, as well as the challenges they face on a daily basis.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm Dave Boling. It's one of the real privileges of my writing career to be asked by Curt and Ana to help them tell their story. I tell people that it's not what you would call a feel-good story.
Mhm.
It's a feel deeply story, and I think from the responses we have had from readers and the reviews, that when people bring this book and embrace it and take it to their heart, they can see that good people with courage and determination and faith can make it through very, very challenging situations, including when their home is literally burning down around them. And as I told Curt and Ana within the first 10 or 15 minutes of our first interview, I says, what you guys have got here, it's not about an old football player or autism or something. What you guys have got is a real first-rate love story. And they started laughing and said, yes, that's what this is. And we all agreed that's how it needed to be told. And and thankfully, I think a lot of our readers have seen it as that, and come away moved and maybe heartened a little bit too. Everybody's facing tough times now. To see people plow through and come out the other side with a smile on their face, a few dents.
Yes.
But I think that's
more than a few dents, Dave.
Especially on you. So I would like to talk to you about this and tell people about the book that you wrote. And I think a good place to start is, this was not a story you guys wanted to tell. You went 20 some years with even some of your closest friends not knowing what was going on inside your house. And and it would be good for you to tell them why you kept this to yourself, and why you didn't feel it was until 20 years into it time to tell people about the challenges you were facing.
Well, I think for me, it was more in dealing with the day-to-day activities that were so intense that we really just didn't have a whole lot of time to sit down and start putting together, a story or notes. I kept saying to myself throughout the process that there's a story in here, but it is just, we just don't have time to tell it, because we're just trying to figure things out as we kind of move forward. And that's really what it was. We took it one day at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 minute at a time, 1 second.
We're in survival mode for a long time. So, explaining things to people, and we became very isolated. So it was just, I'm not going to pick up a phone and try to have a conversation when I have, kids screaming in the background, or there's so much going on that we couldn't deal with the outside. It was easier just to hunker down and take care of each other, and
And then if we tried to explain it, it was just too much to explain.
Yeah, I don't think
people would come over in their house. There are dents on the walls. There are just a lot of things that you come into our house and it looks like a war zone, and it's, what do you say? You can't explain it.
And wasn't part of it too, you both realized you'd been blessed in so many ways.
Yes.
And your life had been gifted, and and you just didn't want anybody thinking you were complaining about the hand you've been dealt.
No.
Yeah, and we had a couple of good friends that we would talk to. A gentleman by the name of Pastor Ken Hutchinson, who passed away.
Yeah.
He was a dear friend of ours. A guy by the name of Dave Brown, just a dear friend of ours as well. That we could kind of talk to, but it was still difficult to explain everything and anything. And then especially their behaviors were just so unbelievably.
Let's sketch in.
Okay.
Where you I mean, I have seen it, and one of the things that the way you guys try to turn things into positives, Curt was telling me, hey, I've gotten great at fixing sheetrock, and I'm really good at plumbing. I do.
She's better at it
now.
than I am.
I am the one fixing walls now.
I turned it over to her. I'm like, honey, we still have a few holes to fix.
Explain some of the behavior, and obviously we get into some of the self-injurious things and dangerous things that we can get into later. But I mean, just in a typical day.
Well, when they were little, since language was an issue when communicating to us, communicating to us if they were in pain or frustrated, it would be like, break the door, break the walls, and
we're still getting that from Christian.
It was still, and Austin too.
But more so with Christian.
Austin takes out and he's frustrated or he's drumming. he's very musical, and he drums the music, the videos that he's watching on YouTube, and the walls get it, you know. So, and Christian is frustration. He will hit the walls. He has less language skills than Austin. So we're still dealing with that.
But not as much, not as intense.
No.
Whereas it was just, and sometimes you just have to just kind of let it go and just.
And I think we just kind of got used to it too. It's just like, oh yeah, right.
Go back to the stage where you had been to dozens of doctor's appointments because of their erratic behavior. And in one of them, I'll tell the story, you were telling one of the doctors that Austin, I believe, he eats wood. He chews on windowsills.
Yeah.
And he would eat books. He would devour books by eating them, not reading them.
Yeah.
And the doctor gave him something, handed him a tongue depressor, just to keep him busy while he was talking to you. And when he looked back at Austin, it was in shreds. He had eaten the tongue depressor. Yeah. And for dozens of times, dozens of doctor's appointments, no one said the word autism to you.
Yeah, no. It was always all their twins, you know, the boys usually the language will develop later. Twins, they have their own language. At the time they were bilingual, so that's gonna delay even more. I'm thinking, okay, when they're 15, they're gonna start talking. But the behaviors start, you know, getting worse and worse, and until we moved down here to Camas, it was right before they turned 5, and I think Curt had mentioned to one of his managers that, you know, we're dealing with some behaviors. And they're
not sleeping as
well.
Yeah,
and they were not sleeping as well. So he
made an appointment. We went over to Portland.
Yeah, went over to Portland to a pediatrician. It was Austin first. Austin, he was almost 5, and he had about 5 words in his vocabulary. Christian had less than that, and a lot of screaming, a lot of running, hyperactivity, and I thought it was ADHD. And so 5 minutes in the room with her, and she was like, autism. I'm like, no, I probably did something wrong, or something that we can do. No, there's nothing you can do. It's not your fault. But there's nothing you can do.
And we didn't know anything about autism.
Nothing. The only thing that we knew,
you didn't want to believe it either, anyway.
No,
because you're a mother.
I wanted to know if we could. My question was, okay, now we know. Can we fix it?
Yep.
And there was no answer.
Yep.
Meaning that
there was no treatment, no cure, nothing. So
that was
it was the longest drive home, and it's like 20 minutes from Portland, but it was the longest drive home because we were just quiet. And usually in the car, the kids will be, calm. And it was just like, now what, And
then we had Christian, so we had to take him over there to get him evaluated as well.
Yep.
And he's not.
He had, yeah. So at least I had a name.
And Ana jumped into it with a passion. And Curt was a little bit like, I want to get a game plan first.
You know what? It's like, what is it? Shoot, ready, aim. Anyway, go. She's
fire.
I went.
She was ready to fire.
Yeah. She jumped into the fire.
I'm just like, I'm going to fix it.
What are you doing? We don't. She still is that way, but.
Yeah.
And you tried everything. You read everything. You tried everything. Doctors, you had an army of doctors coming to the house. You guys were fortunate enough. You
therapy,
therapy, lots of therapy.
You could get therapy.
Yeah.
And it worked for a while. They made some steps.
Well, they did make progress. They talk. Christian has regressed, but that's a different different diagnoses, but they've made progress. They can read, they can write.
But in comparison to your normal
To recovery, no, they have not recovered. They're still very much affected by it.
Yeah, in
And
comparison to what would we atypical
Yeah, a neurotypical.
classroom,
Yeah,
second grader, fifth grader, eighth grader, high schooler. No,
No.
they were not able to.
And you used to say they had about what the cognitive and communication skills of a 5-year-old.
and
Five,
Christian
6,
probably.
7, 10.
Yeah.
She likes to go lower. I like to go
And
lower.
that's, I mean, and now they're
26 years old.
26 years old and grown and basically still at some of those cognitive levels.
Yes.
Yeah.
For a while, it got to be a lot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And can you tell us, the thing that I find really moving about your story is the partnership that you guys have had, the way you shoulder the yoke together, and that you would call and Curt would come home from the car dealership when you called and you'd say, I'm tired. And he'd say, go to bed. I'll take the night shift. And he would be up with him through the night, go to work in the morning. And the two of you, the partnership that you had, what I have found inspiring and what people are able to do when they make promises to other people and commit to them. Tell, please, some of the dangers of them getting out of the house. Knives.
Well, they around the house,
biting each other.
Yes, usually frustration. If Austin's frustrated, Austin's frustrated with me, he'll bite Christian, or himself.
But that's more so now. But I think Dave was talking about
the past.
Back when Austin
was
time
leading up to puberty, where it got.
Oh yeah. No.
We had to lock the house down. We locked the house from the inside out. I mean, it wasn't something we were ever going to talk about. But they would literally escape and leave, and we had to have the door chimes on every door.
Every door, every window. So, we had lanyards with the keys so we can open the fortress, and it was for their safety.
That went on for a while. But that was the only way we could keep them, safe and contained for the most part. As of now, we don't have to.
But Austin could climb a 6-foot fence like this. So even to be in the backyard.
Floor window, right? Broke the screen out?
Leaning against the screen from the second floor. Yeah. So even if we were in the backyard, it had to be it was fully fenced and all of that. We had to be there with them because Austin was always escaping.
And that went on for a while.
Yeah.
So.
Or flooding the bathroom, stabbing the couch.
With a knife, with a butcher knife.
With a big knife. Stabbing the couch, pretending the couch was that dragon from Sleeping Beauty. And so we had to lock, the pantry was locked. The mud room with the other freezer was locked. I mean, it was just, everything was locked.
Tell us about what I find soul crushing, and I don't know how a parent deals with this when a child they love is trying to hurt himself. When the boys would start banging their heads on the floors or the wall. Just try to give us a hint of what that's like.
Helplessness. That's really where we're at, and there is just not a whole lot you can do about it. You know that they're in pain. You know that they're hurting. They're trying to turn something off. It's a sensory issue, and there is nothing.
And nobody could tell us what was going on.
It's pounding head.
Yes.
It wasn't. He
For
was banging
3
it hard.
years.
Yeah,
Yes.
he was banging his head
Yeah.
pretty hard. So
Yeah.
thank goodness that
Yeah.
we got through that.
Yeah.
That was a phase that we got through. There's always hope at the end.
Yeah.
And
He doesn't do that anymore.
No, he doesn't do that
He's
anymore. But it took a while, and it's something that you don't forget. So everything that we talk about, I mean, it's still there, and we were able to compare it to what's happened.
Right. In the past. Tell us about the most dramatic event when it was 2008, I think, February 2008. Yeah. And the twins were
13.
13,
yeah.
When they burnt the house down? We kind of laugh a little bit now when we say it.
Well, congratulations. You made it through.
I know. Yeah, Curt went to work, and we had just gotten Isabella. Adoption wasn't even,
the daughter.
Yeah, adoption wasn't even final yet. And
Jonathan was home.
Jonathan was sick at home in our room. I was downstairs doing Isabella's hair, watching Sesame Street, and Christian was on the couch next to me. When the smoke detector went off.
Yeah.
And I knew it was Austin. I ran upstairs, and I saw there were 2 staircases, and I came up on one side, and Austin was coming up on the other side with a glass of water
to put the fire out.
He had to start a fire in his bedroom. So
you guys hide all the fire starters, but Isabella had her second birthday and a birthday cake, and Austin found where the lighter was.
Austin is very good problem solver. When he has something in mind, he will go to the end of the earth to solve that problem. And when Isabella had her second birthday, and we had a birthday party, and a couple of days prior to the fire, and Austin followed Curt without Curt knowing to the garage and where the lighter was hidden, and he got it, waited for Curt to be out of the house, and he went into his room, and he was pretending after the fire. He told me he was pretending that he was inside Whale, the monstro, the whale in Pinocchio, and the way to get out of the whale is Pinocchio starts a fire, so the whale will sneeze him out. And so he started the fire. When I got to the room, it was already the curtains were on fire. Jonathan was coming in to the room, and I think I ran to our bedroom to get a fire extinguisher, but it wasn't working. So I told Jonathan to get the kids and put in the car, and I ran, got the phone and called 911, told them that we had a fire, and I called Curt, and I told him that the house was on fire. And by the time I got done with that, the smoke was already covering, the ceiling on the second floor. And so I got downstairs, and Jonathan came in and said that Austin was gone. So I had already put the dog outside, opened the front door for the fireman. So I went upstairs again, thinking that he was going to try to put the fire out, and almost didn't make it back because the smoke, I couldn't breathe. And Jonathan said, "Mom, I found Austin." So I came downstairs, we got in the car, and we backed out of the garage. And when we're backing out, the windows were exploding on the second floor, and couple more minutes, and then the fire department got there, and we lost 95% of our stuff.
Yeah.
Curt came running. They wouldn't let him down the street. He had to go do some of his old Seahawks moves, trying to get up the street.
Something like that.
Yeah, because it was like 3 engines. I mean, it was a very hot fire, so
all the
a lot of water.
career,
Gone.
the
Gone.
awards, the memorabilia, gone. The life you'd lived was gone. Kids shaken immensely. I know Austin, both of them, Austin would punch himself when he got close to the house, the old house.
Yeah.
You were there that night. You were at a friend. People, your neighbors were great. Your friends were terrific. The way they stepped up and helped you out. And in the worst of times, you saw some of the best in people. And the two of you were there that night. Ana, you had still at age 13, you had to bathe the twin boys because they can't do it well enough to make sure they're clean. You have to bathe them. And so you finished up, you go, and you finally have a minute with Curt, and the two of you just tell me about that moment.
Just holding each other, just crying.
Very emotional time, because you just lost everything.
And where are you gonna go with two kids with severe autism? It's not like you can go into a hotel and just hang out by the pool.
They'll start kicking things.
Yeah. What's next? What's what we're gonna do?
Now, the thing that I really came to appreciate about you guys, once we talk, is something that was very different. And one of the things that we don't need to go into, but Ana was diagnosed with PTSD afterward, with a stillborn, many miscarriages, 3 rapid fire births, the twins, the fire, etc. Depression got in there, and you really hit bottom.
Oh yeah.
And Curt was there, and the two of you made it through together. The one thing that I like, when after we would talk about something that deep, you would always switch and say, but you know what, they're such great kids. We love these kids. And you'd tell stories about Austin going, today he went to the freezer and picked out some ice cubes and put them in his pocket and walked away.
Always.
Or he still does that, yes. He does it with chicken now.
He does it with chicken, roasted chicken.
And how Christian was the junior partner, and Austin would eat the meat, and then he'd throw the bones, and Christian would chew on the bones. So, and if one liked the topping of the pizza, the other liked the crust. And that you said, people, they don't understand what good kids they are inside. They never lie.
Yeah.
They don't.
Try though.
They
Austin tries.
But they're very loving.
We drag it out of it. After about the second or third question,
you're lousy liars.
Eventually, he'll come. Yeah, he's a bad liar. That's really what he is.
But the joy they bring to you as they are is something that's so very special and that you really cherish. Can you just tell me a little about the two?
It's called unconditional love. You have to love them regardless. No matter what the situation is. You can be upset with them. You may not like them for a few minutes. You may not like them for a few days. But you still love them. You're still going to take care of them. You're still going to do what is needed. You're going to do what's best for them regardless, because they are our children. And we love them.
They are in their fun. There's some funny moments that we keep in our minds, because it's always something to or it might be a hug, or like Christian, when Christian smiles, because he doesn't feel good a lot of the time. So when he smiles, when he's having a good day, oh my gosh, it's just the whole household, everybody is happy.
I love that you were keeping a list of things I would have never believed I had to tell my son. Austin, don't pee on the wall. Austin, don't pee on the computer.
Yes, Austin, don't put the chicken in your pocket. That's another one to the list.
They're just, we could write a list of what.
But it's just funny stuff that you have to think. Go ahead.
One of the things that I think, and I fear somehow goes a little unnoticed and is a shame in families in what you call the autism community, is that so often parents spend have to focus on keeping the one needy child safe and healthy, and doing the best you can, that the siblings sometimes just get overlooked.
Yeah.
And Jonathan, and one of the things you said from the start is if we do this book, we want Jonathan to have free reign to write his own chapter.
Yes.
And it's a beautiful thing. And he opened up, and Jonathan is now a radio producer in Portland.
No,
right?
actually, now he's with NBC. He's NBC Sports, Northwest Sports.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So
if he ever needs, any help,
he's following, he's following your
but it's such a heart-wrenching thing, because he really dug deep and looked into his emotions of what it was like. And when he was young, when he was 12, when he was 13, what about me?
Yep.
And as natural, any kid would do that. And you, Ana, I know you said, I had to kind of put him up against the wall and say, we're in a family.
Yeah.
We're a family here, and we're all doing this together.
Yeah.
We've been challenged with this, and we're all pulling together.
Yeah.
And I think the chapter that Jonathan wrote was really stunning. And then any little bit that we could have from Isabella in the book is a very light moment, because she's really such a character.
And guess what? She's a writer as well, Dave.
Great. I could tell that a funny one. The question, I don't know that you can put this into words. Anecdotally, it's said that autism families, marriages break up at a very high percentage.
80% plus, probably.
And the fact that when I saw you guys, and I thought, and that's with one child in most cases, and you have two, it's double or more probably, the impact that it has on a relationship. Is there a secret? What is it that when times were tough and you pulled it together? I mean, I think this is a story that's instructive for couples facing any kind of circumstances in the world we live in. How do you make it through?
Our faith.
Prayer.
Faith.
Communication.
Communication, key.
Unconditional love.
Yep.
We still have our own issues as parents, as husband and wife, but there are other things that are more important, more pressing than what you may be thinking individually. So you can't necessarily think as much about you individually as you would be thinking about what's best for your wife and for you. Now, granted, people for the most part will think of themselves, and in this particular situation, you could find a lot of things to be, I guess, negative about, unfair. Why do we have to deal with this on a day-to-day basis? Why couldn't this have been different? Well, okay, we all ask those questions, but the question is, what are you going to do about it? Okay, you got choices. Okay, you can sit there and lament and grovel and be put in a place where you're having a pity party.
Yeah.
One thing I say to a number of my friends, I say, you know what? Yeah, I could complain, but I just don't. I don't think my wife is going to want to hear my complaint about this, that, and the other things. So I just kind of keep it to myself for the most part. But yeah, naturally you're going to get somewhat irritated. You're going to get somewhat upset about the situation. But you got to keep the big picture in mind when it's all said and done.
That's a great message. Give us an update on the boys.
Well, they're 26 years old.
They're still here with us.
They are. This quarantine has not bothered them. I mean, they know that because of the coronavirus, they can't do this or that. But we are so used to being at home. That was our normal, anyways.
I don't know if that's a compliment.
I know it's not, but it hasn't affected much our family lives. even Isabella was like, my friends are complaining, there's no school. I'm okay with it. I'm doing my work on the computer. I'm okay with it. I said, well, that's how our life, is. Yeah. So they, which, when we go out, they put the mask on, but, they try to bring it down here so it's not, but it's not bother them, I don't think, as much.
And their future. One of the reasons you wanted to write a book was to maybe drum up some support and to
get
marshal the forces to find a place, because they, at this point at 26, are not able to take care of themselves in a living situation.
Yeah, they need 24-hour assistance, and
so we do have a long-term plan in place. Yeah. We're moving in that direction, and
to get a place for them in Ellensburg, to a house in Ellensburg where they'll live with. It's a house with 4 adults with autism and house parents, and that we need to get that together. And
so we're working
on work too, for like farming.
They will be doing. There's a vocational part of the plan that they would do organic vegetables. They'll grow organic vegetables at the Trellis Center, and they do a CSA and also deliver vegetables they go all the way to Bellevue from Ellensburg, and they deliver herbs and vegetables to the local restaurants, and they have a Saturday market trailer. And at least, that vocational is important for them to have that, to have a meaningful life, and not just have a house that they'll just, like here, they just stay home and be on YouTube or a computer all day. That way they'll be working, have friends, and hang out with their friends, and that's what they're working.
So we're looking to do something that is going to be beneficial for them.
Yes.
We know that being here with us is not.
And we're not going to be here forever. If one day we're going to die, and they need to be taken care of, and that way we're working on that, so they'll be taken care of, and it won't be Jonathan or Isabella's responsibility financially. We want to make sure that everything is paid for, so Jonathan and Isabella would just be guardians and help make decisions for them.
I would like
it's taken a while to do
that. So absolutely. I'd like to tell the guests, I guess we should call them, those people out there, the 88 of you. Thank you for joining us. But the one thing that when you work on a book with people and they share their innermost thoughts, and Ana was very forthcoming, and Curt, I had to bend his arm a number of times. Come on, Curt, tell me what it really felt like. And when he opened up, it was really powerful. And our events that we have, we've had a number of events, and the response from readers has been phenomenal.
Yeah. Yes.
It's sold well. It has had starred reviews. But the best thing is you see on Amazon, those reviews. It's like 77% are 5-star, and people talking about what the book meant to them. And at events that we had, afterward we'd sit down and sign, parents would come up and particularly want to talk to Ana about, I think a lot of it was telling their story too.
Yeah.
They wanted to share, and hey, I have this common thing.
Yes.
And the line would back up so far because somebody was, now, so what did you do? And you would give them a recipe or something. And then by the time that person was finished, they invariably say, can I get a hug? And everybody's hugging, and there would be tears. And I got the sense that Ana would go home with them.
Yeah, I would, definitely.
And so I started to think Ana should be everybody's mother. And the thing with Curt is that I come to, I knew him. I was on the Seahawks beat the last year that he was with the Seahawks, and you know, he was a ball player, and he was a big star. And I didn't really get to know him, but after we started talking, and the stories that Ana would tell about him, the times where this mega star has such humanity, his sensitivity with the boys when they're suffering, when he would get down on the floor to try to hold his son's head in his hands to keep him from giving himself a concussion. You know, that sense of humanity. And I started to think, and I think people who read this book will see, I think that is really a paradigm for modern masculinity, what Curt Warner exemplifies. He could have been a national NFL broadcaster. He's got a degree in communications. He had the big name. He's very, very capable. His car business, he decided to back away from because he needed to spend time with Ana. And it just is part of, I hope, and the things that I'm hearing from readers is that they're inspired by you as parents and people. And I think that's what really makes the book a keeper. And I hope people will buy it and read it. So,
Thank you.
do you have anything else you'd like to add before we go to questions?
No,
we're good.
we're good.
Okay. Megan, is Megan going to help us here, or I need to get to the questions?
Hi, Dave. This is Josh here.
Hi, Josh.
Yeah, if you just want to go down to the bottom where it says ask a question, click on that.
I've got a couple here.
Yeah.
This is from Cheryl. I have an autistic son. You become a professor of autism. How are your boys doing now?
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
She's
you
a
do.
professor. I'm not. I'm still learning.
We still deal with the daily, the diets and the supplements, and making sure that their body is functioning well, and their immune system is functioning well. But the behaviors, we still have the frustrations that we have, the holes on the walls and stuff like that, or biting. But
or sometimes Christian eating.
Takes takes a long time for him. But other than that, I think they're happy. I hope that they are. And
Christian's OCD comes into play. He gets locked into place.
Yeah, Christian has pandas, so his OCD is kind of off the chart when it's inflammation in his body and the brain.
In other words, he gets stuck in a particular situation, and it's kind of tough to.
And usually it happens every day, many times a day. And it takes us, figure out, sometimes we'll figure out, oh, this will help, and we stick with that, and then it doesn't help long, and then we got to figure out something else. It's, we're still learning.
And I'll share with our guest, the one time you showed me a picture of Christian where with his OCD, it stopped breathing, or he was holding his breath.
Oh, yes, that was last year.
And his face was like...
His eyes were blood red. It was, I had to take him to the emergency room, and of course the doctors don't know what to do. His face was swollen. He would hold his breath, and you had to keep telling him, Christian, breathe. But he busted all the vessels and both of his eyes, and so he was all purple down here, and
it looked like he was in a fight, a bad fight.
And he lost bad in that fight. So
and you have to explain that
how
in that situation, what's going on, because they're going to look at
what did you
do to this guy? I'm like, well, first, hey, come out here. I did not do this. Okay, so here's what's happening. And then the doctor will see it. He'll see him holding his breath, and he'll go, okay.
And you go to the hospital, to the emergency room, and they put you in the the psychiatric emergency room part of the hospital, and you try, do tests, and they just don't know how to explain that. So
again, that sense of helplessness.
Yeah, you just come back with a hospital bill, but no help.
Here's another one. This is from Megan.
Hi, Megan.
What books, movies, other resources would you recommend for parents of a child recently diagnosed with autism? And how do folks connect with the autism community?
That's good. That's good.
Okay.
Autism Society of America is a good place to start.
And Curt's on the board of directors now.
Yeah, at the national level, but you can look for affiliates locally.
Yeah.
Or you can go to the national website as well and just start asking questions.
And
they have a lot of resources to help in those particular situations. Where you can go, they'll direct you what you perhaps you could find a doctor or something.
Okay, Megan, I'm gonna interrupt here. The diet: remove gluten, remove dairy, remove sugar. I know it's hard, but it can be done. Find a functional doctor or a doctor that's more into biomedical interventions, because regular physicians usually don't know much about autism. So
not all of them.
No, but usually they'll try with prescriptions, and you can take care of it with biomedical interventions.
So there are other options.
Yes,
that's what you're saying.
I am big on biomedical interventions and the diet. Yes.
A question without a name attached. Question to Curt. How do you keep the romance alive?
Well,
how do
me
you
being the hot guy that I am, it's pretty easy. So there you go. I just answered the question.
Well, that goes without saying.
No, okay.
In my own mind. I'm a legend in my own mind. So I'm thinking that way. I'm good.
Before COVID, we had every Friday, it was date night. We'll go to a movie or we'll go to a restaurant. I would try not
date night.
Yeah, not to talk about the kids.
Kids on the spectrum or not.
Yeah.
Try to do the date night. It really does help.
It does.
Have date night.
Even our son Jonathan, who just had a baby, him and his wife go Friday night. They just started with the baby. It's like Friday night is date night. I said, good for you.
Good for you. Good for you.
Okay.
Starting early.
Here's a question from Robert McGrath. Do you have any outlets for maintaining your own personal mental health and well-being?
Any outlets?
Yeah, I guess advice for or things that you do that helps you stay square and solid.
That's a good question, man. Okay, so on just a guy thing, I'd like to hit golf balls. I like that. I take the dog for a walk, for runs, and that kind of helps me exercising, because you got to get it out of your system. I mean, you could sit there and but I find that, you can sit there and be upset and be mad, but I find that exercising does give me a release.
Your endorphins.
And I always feel better, no matter how bad I feel when I start. By the time I hit that first mile or so, I'm feeling.
I'm sure I would. Any Seahawks fans out there probably would like to have this question answered.
Okay.
How's that knee of yours? The famous knee.
It's fine. You know what? In comparison to other operations, Dr. Scranton did a wonderful job. I love Dr. Scranton. He came in and he told me, as I was laying in the bed, just sitting there pouting because I couldn't play, obviously, and I was down. He just said, "Hey, fixed it. I fixed it. What you need to do now is get into rehab and get well." And that's what I did, and the knee still functions.
Because it was a dark day in Seattle.
Well, it was a dark day for me as well. So we both had a real dark day on that one.
Here's a question from Cheryl again. Were your boys put on medications and did they help? And I know that's a huge answer. Maybe you can just skim it or.
Okay, Cheryl. The boys were, like I said, I do biomedical intervention, and I've been doing that for a while. But after the fire, because of the PTSD, that both Austin and Christian had a lot of anxiety. I mean, they were put in anxiety.
With Dr. Green.
Yeah, with Dr. Green.
So
we have a wonderful doctor over here in Portland and in Washington, and we had to go
in a different route. But
yeah.
Again, that's not.
No.
The disclaimer is, hey, look, you know what? There are other options.
There are.
You need to.
So we had to, because.
And as you say, once you've seen a child with autism, you've seen one child with autism, and they're.
Yes, we have two, and they're completely different. Yes.
Description for it.
Yes. Yes.
Question: have you thought about getting together with other parents to get a home in Camas? Well, that was kind of what you've explained in Ellensburg.
Well, in Camas, in Ellensburg, the whole thing with Ellensburg is the fact that the weather is better than here. We got more sunshine over there, and there is already there are 3 ranches already there. So we are just, our hope is just to not reinvent the wheel, just join those other 3 homes. And the fact that they have the vocational part is already there. It's been there for 10 years, I think. So we are working with those families over there. So we're not reinventing this. And even though it's a long drive for us, it's a 4-hour drive for us over here in Camas. After we visited, and we decided that's where we think the boys are going to be happy, and that's where we want them to be. So
here's another broad question from Megan. What was schooling like for your sons? And I know it was hit and miss, and it was still in a developing stage for schools' curricula, correct? I think it's probably a little better now.
Well, we got to remember they were diagnosed in 1999. So autism was, never talked about it. So there was no program. I started an ABA program over here at the time, and we ended up for ABA. Applied behavior analysis. And the boys were getting 40 hours of ABA each a week. And the school, we took the school to court because they didn't have that program. So they had to.
And more schools now.
More schools now do have, and insurances now do cover that. I highly recommend. And after that, the boys were in private school. We went to a school that decided to take us as a ministry. And there was a private school. We ended up taking Jonathan over there as well. They went in with their therapist and were embraced by the kids and the families and the whole school. They stayed over there until about 3rd grade. That's when Christian started banging his head, and it was starting to get a little bit more difficult. We had to pull them out and homeschooled for a while, and then we had the fire and went back to public school. With more on the kind of a classroom just for low functioning, what they call it.
That's the extent of our questions. I would really encourage anyone who is interested in this to buy a book. And it's not just for people who want to learn about autism. It's really a broad message being told. And I see Megan is here. Love you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Megan?
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Ana and Curt, and our interpreters, Karen and
Yes,
Cynthia.
thank you.
Thank you.
This has been a really enjoyable conversation. I really appreciate you folks diving into the book and sharing your story and talking to us about your kids. And yes, everyone, please, if you enjoyed this program tonight, you can continue to enjoy it via reading that book. So please buy the book from our friends at Third Place Books. And again, gratitude to the Seattle Public Library for joining us tonight.
Yeah.
That concludes our program. So stay safe out there and have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Ana.
guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.